Alright guys, this is Curt and John with True Shot, and today we'll be reviewing the Sig Sauer P322. Okay guys, we'd like to thank Fred from Force Options USA for providing us with this Sig Sauer P322. John, can you give us a breakdown on some of the specs?
So, some of the features and specs of this gun, first thing we're going to talk about is it's a 20 round capacity 22, which makes it one of the highest capacity 22s on the market. Now, on top of that, we'll touch on a little bit more. So, it is optics ready. It does come with the RMR style footprint. So it'll fit, you know, the Romeo 1, or I'm sorry, the Romeo 0, the Shield Arms style optics, Hollow Suns, things like that. The other thing is, so it comes with a front fiber optic and a rear fiber optic that's adjustable. Unfortunately, when you put the optic on, you lose your rear sight. I wish there was a way to fix that.
Yeah, we were talking about that before, and I think probably what it is honestly there's probably not room to be able to move the optic cut forward enough and still have room for like a rear sight. So I've seen on other pistols where that's really the case. So that's probably what's going on there.
And it's got a lot to do with the internal stuff. You're cutting into metal, and there's some internal things. If you don't want to cut into like a striker gun, you don't want to cut into the striker channel by accident. So as much as I think that's a negative about this gun, that you lose the rear sight, there's a reason why. Mm-hmm. You've got fully ambidextrous control, so it's got slide release and safety is fully ambidextrous. The mag release is reversible.
Right.
So you can make this for our left-handed friends, left-handed friendly. It is single action only, and one of the biggest things I really think is innovative about this, not only did they were able to fit 20 rounds into this, unlike some people. We're not going to say names. The trigger is also swappable. So it's swappable between a curved trigger and the flat trigger. Now currently the flat trigger is on here, the curved trigger is in there too. But that's kind of neat, different. Like it comes from the factory with the ability to swap, and it comes in the box with it to go back and forth.
I've never seen that. I've never seen, like basically a stock or OEM gun that came with different triggers like that. That's really cool.
So also in the front here, we're sporting a 1913 Picatinny rail, so it'll fit all your lights, lasers, accessories that you like to do it, and a single action only trigger. So it is single action only, is hammer fired on the inside with a fixed barrel as well. So before we get any further, let's throw it over to specs with some great elevator music so Curt can dance when no one's watching. Okay, so now that Curt's done dancing and having fun, let's talk about our shooting experience. So first and foremost, we ran this gun on the range 100% suppressed.
Yep.
What does that mean for the gun?
So obviously when you're going to run suppressed, it's going to foul up that gun quite a bit. You're getting all that gas. It's not going out. A lot of it's coming right back in. 22 is also not necessarily the cleanest thing in the world. So with that said, we were really kind of punishing this thing. And with that, honestly, we only had 2 malfunctions with it. And I don't think it had anything to do with, honestly, being suppressed.
No, and the other thing that I want to add is that before we got the gun from Fred, he said he fired 1,200 rounds of mixed 22 through it with no cleaning.
So we ran some Remington Subsonic, we had some Aguila 40 grain supers, as well as some Armscore 36 grain hollow points. Overall, the reliability was great, especially considering the fact that we were running Subsonic suppressed. We did have, I believe, 2 malfunctions, and I believe they were failure to feeds. We talked about this quite a bit. I honestly don't know that I can necessarily attribute it to specifically ammo or specifically the gun. It could be, but for anybody who shot a lot of 22, I mean, I think it's a little bit inherent of the caliber, because we didn't have enough malfunctions or a consistency of such that I could really like troubleshoot it and narrow it down. Again, 22 being what it is. It's a small round, it's a softer round, and I think we all know, especially when you run it in a mag fed, especially a pistol, you know, if it doesn't feed just right, that round can get a little bit bent or fouled up, and that's really what happened. Again, it was an easy clear, and everything else ran great.
Now, we had, you know, those little malfunctions with it, ran great, we ran it suppressed. Now, let's talk about use for this. The gun itself, for me, feels great, and it reminds me a lot of the 365 series of frames. It's got the great undercut under the trigger guard. It's got the great texturing like you come to know from Sig. Curt, what are you thinking? The same thing, or we think it's something a little different?
No, I totally agree, and you'll notice it is. The overall feel is like the 365 XL, but it is. That grip is longer, which I think is really good in this case. Where I see this gun really shining is honestly for the first time shooter. So if you're going to take somebody out shooting for the first time, this is an amazing place to start, because it's a chance to shoot a pistol. There's going to be no recoil, it's not very loud, and the overall experience of that is really good. The other thing, I was actually talking with somebody else about this a little bit, is that if you start somebody on something like a Glock 19 or even a Smith, something in 9mm, that kind of thing, if they don't know or they haven't shot very much, to actually run the action of that slide is really, it takes more pull than I think a new shooter is expecting. For us, we don't even think twice about it. If you've been shooting a long time, again, you don't even think twice about that. But if you've ever gone out with a new shooter, like one of two things happens. One, they'll kind of pull it and they'll kind of stop because they're kind of like, oh, I don't want to break it, which they can't, but they don't know that, right? It takes more force than they're kind of expecting. And so what I've done a number of times is if I've got a new shooter, I'm like, look, you probably have to pull that harder than you think. And once they do that, you know, then they're like, oh, okay, you know, then they get a handle on it. With something like this, it takes almost nothing to run. It's very easy, and I think honestly, it's sort of what people are expecting.
Right.
And so it is. That first experience is great.
Now, the other thing I want to add, talking about the frame, we mentioned the undercut and things like that. This has got a really nice mag well. Just super big, easy to go into.
Yep.
So going back to what you were saying about new shooters, learning how to get the mag in and doing mag changes and things like that. This is a great training gun and a great overall taking out to Plink. Now, earlier I said it was a 20 round mag. It does come with 2 from the factory stock.
Right.
It also can get 25 round mags. So you have the sky's the limit. This, like I said, it's one of the highest capacity 22s on the market. I know I think there's 2 more that are a little bit more. I think Caltech makes one that's 33 rounds.
And that's I think the biggest thing to stress on that. Like, yes, we did have a couple malfunctions, but again, as we were talking about, I think it has way more to do with just 22 as a caliber. I mean, I've been to a number of, you know, I've been to like competitions where guys are shooting 22 with really high-end guns, and they do the same thing. You know, it happens. But it wasn't very much, and it wasn't anything that was honestly surprising, and it was an easy fix. So, yeah.
So at the end of the day, Curt, you know, we normally ask this question: would you take it home?
I really would, and for the reasons that I was talking about. This is a great place to start a person out. The other thing that I think is really interesting about this gun, I was thinking about it, is that, like, I think back to when I was a kid and I went shooting with my dad. What I appreciate about this is it looks like a lot of guns in the Sig lineup. You know, when I was a kid to go shoot, again, I'd be shooting 22, they'd be shooting 9mm or whatever, right? I wasn't old enough to really be able to handle that recoil, so you know, their guns were cooler, right? But there's something to be said for that, right? That experience when you have, you know, when you get to go out shooting with your kid, you know, anything you can do to make that better, I think is a really good thing. You know, it's a bonding moment, and it is. If it's an opportunity for that kid to go, hey, I get to shoot my gun like mom or dad. You know, that's a big deal, and I think that's a really big thing to stress. Other than that, as an adult, this thing, especially suppressed, one of the best things that happened, it was fun. We'd all shoot it suppressed. It's super quiet. And even Fred has been in this industry a long time. He's very well knowledge. He shot everything. And every time he'd shoot it, he'd just turn and be like, and we all did the same thing because it's so much fun.
And that's what it really brings back, the joy of shooting. And I'm the same way. I think I would buy one too. Now, the MSRP on this is unknown because Sig doesn't give our MSRP, so I'm gonna make one up. I think it's we'll call it 3 eggs and 2 chickens.
It's probably more than that.
Okay.
What's street price?
Street price $3.99.
There you go.
So,
and honestly, it is for $3.99. This package it's a solid choice, and it's a lot of fun to shoot.
No, and I can't stress it enough. A lot of us go out to shoot, to train, and you need to go out and have some fun sometimes. And this is something that you can pull out of the range bag and hand to somebody and have fun. And this is a gun that can bring the family together and make a family range day a good day, and everybody in the family can enjoy it.
All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We really appreciate all your feedback. Let us know your comments on the P322. And we'd also like to thank Fred, again, from Force Options USA, and Mike from AfteractionAZ.
And guys, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the little bell for notifications, and we'll see you on the next one.